Today on Personal Injury Court.
I start to push the weights. It's a struggle. Right here, you can see how the barbell actually goes in between the safety rail and the stand.
He could not lift the amount of weight that he put on the barbell.
Your Honor,
and he did not load it correctly.
Your Honor,
and he did not have a spotter
Your
who
Honor,
would have
how
helped
could she
him
possibly
put it on
know?
the...
Folks, we're going to have order in here. You're asking this court to award you $173,000. I'm talking about common sense. That's a lot of weight.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Gino Brogdon spent 10 years on the bench ruling on cases worth billions of dollars. Now he presides over some of the largest claims in TV history. This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is Haldwell versus Sanders. Mr. Haldwell, it's my understanding that you're suing Miss Sanders for shoulder injury that you suffered at her gym while you were working out. You're asking this court to award you $50,000 for medical expenses, $23,000 for over 6 months of lost wages, pain and suffering of $100,000 for a total award of $173,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Sanders, you believe that Mr. Haldwell's injuries are all his fault. He did wrong things and he caused himself to get a bad shoulder injury.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, how long you been working out?
I've been working out for about the past 20 years, Your Honor. Working out for me is a very serious thing. I actually grew up overweight. I was always a chubby kid growing up. I got teased my entire life. I actually have my own fitness vlog.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Sanders, your gym has free weights, machines, all kind of stuff like my gym would. I go to a gym every morning.
Yes, Your Honor. I am the owner of Sanders Gym. I've been in business for 5 years now. I bootstrapped every dime that went into my baby. I used to be an athlete. I used to run track. And so when I was done with that, I went right into business and became an entrepreneur. You know, I'm just very passionate about staying fit. I've always pulled people in the community together. And I know Mr. Haldwell because he's a member at my gym.
How long was he a member of your gym?
It's been 5 years. He's been there since the beginning.
So you've been working out there 5 years before this, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I've been working out at Sanders Gym.
So, Mr. Haldwell, tell me what happened on the day that you were injured.
The day that I was injured, I went into the gym to do chest day, and I set up my camera to film my exercise, me doing a bench press. I wanted to do a max bench press. I was pushing myself to do just about 350 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
Yes, it is, Your Honor, but I would routinely do 275 with multiple reps. So what I was trying to do here was really push and challenge myself.
Ms. Sanders, did you have any idea that he was going for a personal best that day?
No, I did not.
Did you tell her that you were going to do more weight than you had ever done in your whole life?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
Did you tell anybody at the club that?
Yes, I actually did. There was an employee on duty that day who was trying to be my spotter, and I did inform them that I was going for that.
Okay, so then what happened?
I took videos, as I said earlier, and I brought that video here with me today.
Let's look at the video you submitted to the court.
I object, Your Honor. We do not allow videotaping at our gym, so please don't omit this footage because it shouldn't be allowed.
Ms. Sanders, I appreciate your objection. Usually lawyers make that objection. While your club prohibits this kind of taping, this video is admissible here because it captures the very incident that the whole lawsuit is based on. So I appreciate your objection, but I'm going to overrule it, okay? Mr. Haldwell, I'd like to take a look at the video that you submitted to the court so you can tell me what's going on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's take a look at it.
So as you can see in this video, I've started the press. I've already put the weights on, and I'm about to lift the weights directly over my chest in what's called a bench press. And again, this is the max lift. So here you go. I start to push the weights. It's a struggle. But right here, you can see how the barbell actually goes in between the safety rail and the stand.
Those weights could have killed you.
Certainly could have, Your Honor. It was a very terrible situation.
So your friends called 911?
Yes, my friend called 911 and they immediately transported me to the hospital, which is where I found out that I have a torn rotator cuff.
Ms. Sanders, do you remember seeing Mr. Haldwell at your gym?
Yes.
And what do you recall?
Well, on this particular day, I was in the office early doing paperwork, And I remember I heard a loud bang, but I didn't run to it because that's a common sound that we hear in the gym. You're gonna hear loud noises all the time.
Because people are dropping weights and things?
Right.
How did you know something had gone wrong?
Well, when I came out of the office into the workout area, I saw the barbells and the weights on the floor. And then one of the other members told me what happened. And immediately, I checked on Mr. Haldwell. I called the hospital, and he said he was doing better. It was like maybe a couple days later, we sent him flowers. I care about my members.
Did you get the flowers?
Yes, I received the flowers, Your Honor. It was a nice gesture at the time. This is causing me an incredible
Your Honor,
amount.
this is not my fault.
Well, I will decide whose fault it is. Why do you think it's not your fault? Tell me.
Your Honor, can we rewind the video
Absolutely.
and play it in slow-mo, and I can point out some things that he did incorrectly.
Now, I gotta check you on this. You were objecting about this video before. You wanna use it now?
Well, only since you're allowing it, I would like to point out some things that would actually
That's
help
fair.
my case.
Why don't you go to the monitor?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can see here, he's arching his back. That is improper form when you're lifting weights. There are no clamps on the weights. He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor.
Coming up,
If you go back just a little bit, you can see that he doesn't have on shoes.
You didn't have shoes on?
I didn't have my shoes on because I was having a hard time getting traction on the floor. The floor was very slippery and greasy.
Dr. Brooks, what happens when you tear a rotator cuff?
It has two tears. A tear here we'll call a vertical tear, and then also a tear here. Then we have to drill holes into the bone.
He's dropped weights before trying to show off.
The equipment there is beyond Stone Age. Right here, you can see how the barbell actually goes in between the safety rail and the stand.
This is not my fault. He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor, I did have a spotter. It was an employee of
Your
the
Honor,
gym.
if he had a spotter, they would be in the video.
And also,
Now-
I might point out here that the only thing that saved my life is the fact that I didn't have the clamps on there because, as you can see, the barbell hits the safety guard and goes in between the guard and the stand. It's not supposed to do that.
Your
The safety guard
Honor-
is supposed to work.
Ms. Sanders, what else do you see in that video that you think is not good?
If you go back just a little bit, you can see that he doesn't have on shoes.
You didn't have shoes on?
Your Honor, I didn't have my shoes on at that time because I was having a hard time getting traction on the floor. The floor was very slippery and greasy, and the only way I could get that
They were
traction I needed
probably
for the lift
greasy
was to
from his
remove the
bare
shoes.
feet, Your Honor.
You may return to the podium. Mr. Haldwell, you didn't have shoes on.
No,
right?
the reason I didn't-
You don't have a shirt on. Is that how you usually did your blogs?
Yeah, so the way that we do that is we generally want to make sure that we can see the muscle groups activate as we're doing the lift.
In your feet?
And, Your Honor, the reason that I had to remove my shoes is because the condition of the floor was unsafe to do so with my footwear on. My toes were able to provide me the traction I needed for the lift.
Is that proper, Ms. Sanders?
It is not.
Ms.
As
Sanders.
the owner of the gym, I would like to point out some things that we require our members to do.
And what are those things?
Well, when they sign up to be a member, we have them sign a contract.
Your Honor, I signed the contract on an electronic tablet. And the electronic tablet was page after page after page of fine print that was virtually impossible to read, and her staff was pressuring me to sign immediately for a deal.
Your
Ms. Sanders,
Honor,
did you bring that contract with you?
Yes,
Sheriff, would
I
you
did,
retrieve the
Your
contract
Honor.
from Ms. Sanders? So you signed the contract,
Yes, I did, Your Honor. I signed the contract on the electronic tablet.
and Mr. Haldwell, that signature on there is your signature, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this contract reads, Buzz Haldwell hereby holds the gym, its successors, assigns, owners, officers, directors, employees, and agents harmless from all claims which may be brought against them by the undersigned for any injuries. Did you understand that?
Your Honor, you've probably been in a situation where you've been pressured into something and you didn't have the appropriate time to review all of the documents you needed.
next.
Your Honor, Ms.
If that
Sanders
was
wasn't present when I signed the contract. How
But
could she
I
possibly
trained
know?
my
How could you
employees.
possibly
Mr.
know?
Haldwell, I've consulted Dr. Hadari Brooks, an orthopedic surgeon. What's the long-term damage, Doc?
You're never as good, let me say, after this.
He could not lift the amount of weight that he put on the barbell, and he did not have a spotter.
Your
who
Honor,
would have
how
helped
could
him
she possibly
put it
know?
on very
I'm having order in this court.
The barbell hits the safety guard and goes in between the guard and the stand. It's not supposed to do that.
Your
The safety guard
Honor.
is supposed to work.
He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor.
We had them sign a contract.
Page after page after page, and her staff was pressuring me to sign immediately for a deal.
I've been through a few home closings and other things where honestly it's hard to read the documents under that kind of pressure. Is that the kind of pressure you were under?
Absolutely, Your Honor. It was almost as if I had seconds to sign the document, and they were pressuring me to get this deal.
Now, you mentioned it was on a tablet.
Yes, it
now,
was
under
electronic.
the law, you're entitled to a copy of that contract.
Your
Did you
Honor,
give him a copy of the contract?
Yes, we emailed him a copy of the contract so he can read it at his own leisure.
Your
Was
Honor,
it
with all-
before or after he signed it?
Your Honor, with all due respect, what good is it that you send me the contract after I've already signed it?
That's a good point.
But, Your Honor, he was not rushed through this process. He had time to go through it.
Your Honor, Ms.
If that
Sanders
was his-
wasn't present when I signed the contract. How
But
could she
I
possibly
trained
know?
my
How could you
employees.
possibly
Mr.
know
Haldwell?
what your employees
Ms.
are
Sanders.
doing?
I am very confident.
I'm having order in this court. We're not turning this into a shouting match. Direct your comments to me, please.
Sorry, Your Honor.
That's okay. Now, although the law holds you to the things that you signed, this is a legal document where you have relieved them of all responsibility. That's not the end of it. The circumstances of signing have to be considered too to evaluate the effect of the legal document. Ms. Sanders, you sent him a copy of the contract after.
Yes, Your Honor.
You expected that he would read that?
Well, if he chose to rush through that process, that was on him, Your Honor. I can lose my gym if I don't take the proper procedures to protect the gym and my members, as well as myself as a business owner.
I understand that, but you also have the responsibility to give him a chance to read it before he signs it.
Correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Haldwell, you submitted medical bills totaling $50,000.
Yes,
How
sir.
have these injuries affected you?
Oh, Your Honor. Physically, I'm in an incredible amount of pain. The rehab is awful. It's necessary, but it is absolutely awful. On top of all of that, I am unable to do my job. My job as a meteorologist requires me to be at a computer. I have to put input and data into a machine using my fingers and hands, and I can't do that.
Now, I gotta tell you, as a meteorologist, I get mad at you guys for being wrong now.
We are more right than we are wrong, if there's that.
That is true.
Absolutely.
But this injury has affected the way you do your job. I see that you've asked this court for $23,000 for over 6 months of lost wages.
Not only can I not do my job, I can't do any of the active things I want. My girlfriend and I, we do a lot of things like ziplining, I play volleyball. And then on top of all of that, I can't work out. And as I told you earlier, I was a chubby kid. I got made fun of. Working out saved me.
And that's why you're asking this court for $100,000 for pain and suffering?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Mr. Haldwell, Ms. Sanders, in order to understand the nature of Mr. Haldwell's injuries, I've consulted Dr. Hadari Brooks, an orthopedic surgeon. So, Sheriff Matt, will you get Dr. Brooks?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dr. Brooks,
Hello, Your Honor.
what happens when you tear a rotator cuff?
So a rotator cuff is made up of 4 muscles. I did bring an animated video that may be able to help explain this further. When we look here, this is an example of the rotator cuff coming in and inserting on the top of your arm bone or humerus. It has 2 tears. A tear here we'll call a vertical tear, and then also a tear here where the tendon inserts. We have to place sutures in the tear to repair it here. Then we have to drill holes into the bone to place anchors, which are devices that stay within the bone that have sutures attached. They then get sutured into the rotator cuff so we can cinch the rotator cuff back down to the bone.
What's the long-term damage, Doc?
You're never as good, let me say. Even when we do a great repair, you're never the same as before.
Thank you, doctor. You are released.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. So, Ms. Sanders, you see that this is pretty life-changing for Mr. Haldwell, right?
Yes, it is, Your Honor. But like I say, Mr. Haldwell is very reckless. He's dropped weights before trying to show off.
The equipment there is beyond Stone Age.
Is your equipment outdated or raggedy?
No one complained. Look, Your Honor, he did not do what he was supposed to do to protect himself. He could not lift the amount of weight that he put on the barbell,
Your Honor,
and he did not load it correctly.
Your Honor,
and he did not have a spotter
Your
who
Honor,
would have
how
helped
could
him
she possibly
put it
know
on the
what
rope that he
capable
was-
of lifting?
Mr. Haldwell, I can't hear her if you scream at me.
I apologize, Your
Thank
Honor.
you.
If there's no spotter there, what's he supposed to do if he's going to do it right?
He's supposed to wait.
Mr. Haldwell, why didn't you wait?
Your Honor, there is absolutely zero policy, and nor is it written anywhere that you have to wait.
I'm talking about common sense. That's a lot of weight.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I played college football, did a lot of weightlifting. And I realized that Clint Eastwood was a really smart man. He said a man's got to know his limitations.
The verdict is in.
Here, you've put up evidence that the spotter walked away, that this equipment didn't function the way you intended it to, that is, the safety rack didn't catch the weight, and you suffered horrible injuries, almost life-ending injuries. Ms. Sanders, you expected that he was going to do the exercise right and not put more weight on there than he can lift. He's got certain personal responsibility.
I start to push the weights. It's a struggle, but right here you can see how the barbell actually goes in between the safety rail and the stand.
He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor.
I think I've heard enough. I'm gonna render my decision. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Mr. Haldwell, have to prove that Ms. Sanders was wrong and that her wrong caused your injuries. Here, you've put up evidence that the spotter walked away, that this equipment didn't function the way you intended it to, that is, the safety rack didn't catch the weight, and you suffered horrible injuries, almost life-ending injuries. Ms. Sanders, you expected that he was going to do the exercise right and not put more weight on there than he can lift. He's got certain personal responsibility. My dad would say that can't nobody take care of you better than yourself. And he's right about the law. The law requires that you take care of yourself. Here, the wrong, you've proven that. This equipment was not in good shape, but I don't think that that safety rack caused your injuries. What caused your injuries is you put too much weight on there, you couldn't lift it, you created the hazard. Under the law, if you create a hazard and then you are injured because of that hazard, you are responsible. Because the law is unforgiving in that way, despite your injuries, I must fine for Ms. Sanders because you are responsible for your injuries. So I fine in favor of the defendant and against the plaintiff. That's my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.